Frankie Freako.
Perfect Turd Podcast, episode 269. Frankie Freako. Shabadoo, Lamar.
You know, Joe, well, we're going to talk about that later on, but This is like a throwback to something I think that has been lost, like puppet movies, you know? And so, yeah, it's a contemporary look at that. And boy, oh boy, when you need a party, you call on Frankie Freako, and well, you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Oh, you'll get Freako, Lamar.
You'll be shooting people, and you'll get involved in an intergalactic war, Joe.
Yeah. Well, Lamar, let's break this one down with our first category. What did we think of the story?
Well, Joe, we have a young man by the name of Conor. He's a typical guy, but he's a little stiff. You know, he's a working man.
He's a square, Lamar. That's what he said.
He is a square. He's square, but he's not. He doesn't know how he feels about it because he feels like he's normal, but everybody else is like, man, you're just freaking boring. And so he sees, on the TV, a commercial for Frankie Freako, if you want to have a good time, which goes back to like those 90s, like, what is it, the commercials late at night and stuff like that.
Like the phone sex commercials.
Yeah. And so he calls that number, and boy, oh boy, not only does he have a good time, man, he's how do you even say it? Like, he's fighting for his life against these little creatures, but then he gets to know them and then identifies with their plight. Yeah.
And it busts him out of his square shell, Lamar.
Bust him out of his square shell? Yeah.
Yeah. I almost feel like maybe you can need Freddie Freako in your life, Lamar. No?
I don't need Freddie.
You're not going to dial Freako? No?
No, I do enough exciting things.
Okay.
Such as listen to you try to convince me to like time travel. But anyway.
Okay. Well, I'll say this about the story. I loved almost everything about this. It was a good 80s throwback. I like that. Loved the puppetry, the silliness. The only complaint I have about this movie, Lamar, is the best part of the movie was when they go to the Freako land, and that's just such a small part of the movie. I thought it should have been more of that.
I agree with you. I don't hate it because of that.
Yeah.
Let me say, because I agree with you. I like the story. But it's like, well, this is a later category, but like you, I want to see more of this because it was very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still giving it a 1 point for story, but yeah.
Agreed. 1.
For our next category, Lamar, is what do we think of the characters?
Well, the guy that plays Conor is very good.
Yep.
His wife, very nice. And then he has, his boss, like Joe or something like that. He's kind of sleazy, but he doesn't notice it.
Yeah.
It very, how do I say this? 80s, 90s characters.
Yeah.
Like they fit that stereotype, but it's funny. But then, Joe, we get to the freaks. Well, you got Frankie Freako. Shabadoo. What does Shabadoo do? Like, that's the thing. Like, you remember him, but it's not like...
He just says that.
He just says that. And then you have, like, one that's like a cowgirl that has 2 guns.
Yeah. You had the villains.
You did have the villains, yeah.
That was cool. The big... I don't know what you call it, monster at the end, the big villain. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like it. It had just the right amount of characters, and they did well with the main characters because everything focused around him, and he was good on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the freaks. You gotta love. I mean, it's a throwback to all the Garbage Pail Kids and all that stuff from back in the day. And you gotta love that, and I walked away just saying "Shabadoo."
Yeah, it's like, well, yes,
so,
I enjoyed it.
What do you give it for characters, Lamar?
I give it a 1.
Agreed, 1 point. For our next category, Lamar, is what do we think of the special effects?
Man, I'm gonna ask this, but I don't think no digital blood effects are crappy. If they went kind of all out on this.
I mean, the only digital effects were like the the lightning bolt stuff and
Yeah, but
things like that. But that was from the 80s too. They would like, do the scoping on that. But the puppets, I mean, of course, it's about the puppets.
they because we have seen some, I think, where it's like lazily done, where they don't
Yeah.
move the mount. This one, moving of the mount, they hop around, they do all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. There was no with Crackoon, there was no flopping into the window, Joe. They moved the puppets in a way which added to the film and felt
Yeah.
realistic. Yeah.
Also, something that we haven't seen in a while that was in this movie, miniatures.
Yes.
There's some miniatures, just like a lot of fun stuff. It's really like the stuff we grew up with, you know.
Hmm.
I gotta give it 1 point.
I agree.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. Well, our next category, Lamar, is what do we think of the comedy?
Going back to the 80s and the 90s, I feel like, well, definitely in the 80s, you can attest to this. There were some things that you saw that you really weren't supposed to see.
Yeah.
There's people just getting shot and kind of tortured in this movie, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's fun
Yeah.
and it's funny. And I like that a lot because I kind of miss that in movies.
Oh yeah. It's fun, it's
Yeah.
silly, and
Yeah.
it's not I think you could probably show this to like older kids, right?
Of
12 and
this
up,
generation,
13, right? I think everyone
I,
gets it.
yeah, I think everyone gets it, but then you have somebody like, that's inappropriate. It's like, ma'am, well, going back to another movie, The Gremlins, when you look at that movie, good God, like,
Yeah. But yeah, I
man,
mean, most of the jokes landed for me. The whole thing, just the premise of it was funny enough as it is. And of course, the funniest line in the movie, Lamar, Shabadoo, Lamar.
what do you rate it, Joe?
I'm going to rate it 1 for comedy.
I gotta agree, Joe. It is one for comedy, man.
Well, our last category, Lamar, is sequel potential. Do we want to see Frankie Freako Part 2?
To your original statement, part that was too short
Yeah.
was when they went to Freako World. Is that what they called it? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's a land of the Freakos, something
Land of
like
the
that.
Freakos. That was something because I feel like they always have that thing in the 80s or 90s movies where they finally go to that
Yeah.
place and it's longer.
Yeah.
Yes. If they do a sequel, that's what I want in it because, like you said, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, well, they left it off where it could be a sequel, and we won't spoil it, but it's left off where there's another character that knew about the Freakos.
Yes.
And so that could play a role, like they're all doing an adventure together or something. But yeah, definitely, if they do another one, they've got to go either to their place, or would be kind of funny too is like the Freakos trying to like survive in our world, like they have to go get jobs or something like that. That
Yes.
might be kind of funny too, but I'd rather see them go to their land myself.
Yeah.
What do you give it for sequel, Lamar?
I gotta give it a 1, man.
I agree. Well, Lamar, we've tallied the score, and this movie gets a perfect 5 out of 5.
Well, Joe, I'm going to make a very convoluted part here to, give this movie the kudos that it needs. I don't know if you saw, there's a new Jurassic Park out called
Yeah.
Rebirth. And when I saw it, I was just like, eh. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
we've seen enough. This had more of a simpler time where they had the puppets, where they just
Yeah.
made up Shabadoo. Like it's just they just
Shabba-doo,
made
Lamar.
something up
Yeah.
and made it work.
Yeah. What if they have to go back in time, Lamar? Freakos in Time. It's a good title. To save their world, they have to go back in time. Freakos in Time. You gotta admit that's a good title.
Joe, you're 2-2 on the time trap this year. I think we're on. I would watch that.
All right. Well, does that wrap it up then, Lamar?
It does.
All right. Shabadoo. Peace, Lamar.
Deuces.
You didn't say
Shabba-doo.
Shabadoo.
Well, I did say it.
You're not like him.
Shabadoo.
Shabadoo.
Bruh.